Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, I have a very special presentation for you. I have a special guest here with me today, Mr. John Crump.
Hey, how are you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. It feels good to be finally on your channel.
Yeah, man.
In person, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And there's been a heck of a lot of stuff going on.
Of course.
John and I are going to be discussing this gunmageddon that's going on, and there's definitely a bull in the room that we have to confront. We now know that there's been some bipartisan legislation that has, certainly gone through the Senate, and that poses some very scary questions. I'm sure many of you have questions. Chad and I cut a gun gripe, which some of you have probably seen already at this point, or maybe you haven't. Check that out if you want. We go through a lot of detail. But John is a very connected individual. He knows a lot of people, and he has such great perspective. So I wanted to bring him on the channel to discuss some things. And before we get too far into this presentation, John, where can folks find you at if they want to go and support your efforts?
I do all my writing at ammoland.com, and on YouTube, if you go to John Crump News, that's where I do drop my pre-recorded videos, and I do a live stream with my friend Flying Rich every day, Monday through Thursday, from 5 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, where I have people like Eric on and other people from the gun community and outside the gun community. So I do a lot of that, and I'm trying to grow my channels.
Outstanding. And then you've got your website.
Yeah, crumpy.com is basically just a repository of things. Well, a lot of the stuff just automatically posts there.
Wonderful. That's smart. All right.
Yeah.
And I guess you can see I've been shopping at EME. I can see the banner down there. That's okay.
Yeah, I do run Google ads on there.
Absolutely.
I make like 2 cents a day.
Right. And then we've also got, obviously, ammoland.com. Let's have a look at that real quick while we got things plugging along.
Which I do not own.
Eric, ammoland, John.
Yeah, Eric thought I owned it, but I don't. Awesome. Yeah, I do not own that. I am just a writer there, and I write most of my stuff over there. The people over at Ammoland, the owners and the editors, they're great people. And they truly believe in the Second Amendment, and they're doing it they make a profit because they're capitalists, but they're doing it for the Second Amendment to get word out. And that's one of the reasons why I write for Ammoland.
That's right. Well, there are a heck of a lot of emotions flaring, and people have a ton of questions about what's going on and what some of these proposed, it's not proposed, it's going to be law. I mean, it's already gone back, and Pelosi obviously is going to get that over to Biden's desk quicker than about probably anything that's ever went to his desk. And if Biden can remember how to spell his name, well, I'm assuming he's going to sign it. So, as a snapshot in time, I mean, what does this mean for the bulk of people? I mean, there's all this red flag stuff they're talking about with tons of ambiguity, and it's just so many different ways that it can go. And they're trying to essentially expand the definitions under which someone can be denied a firearm. So, what do you think this means for us moving forward?
One of the most scary things I see is the guilt by association clause. And I have a real problem with that for a couple different reasons. One, because guilt by association is stuff that North Korea and other totalitarian regimes use. Basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, they call it the boyfriend loophole. If you have dated someone, and if you notice I said have dated or currently dating someone, then you become a prohibited person if they are a prohibited person. So they don't really define what dating means. If you go on a speed date, is that considered a date? They really don't define that. They also don't define recently, because they say if you recently have broken up with someone and they were prohibited, you are prohibited, but they don't really go into what recently is. And I think that's one of the biggest red flags, excuse the pun there, in the bill. And I don't think that is keeping up with the principles of what the country is founded on. We're not founded on a guilt by association. we are founded on individual liberty. And if you're going to come down on someone for dating someone who was a prohibited person, what are you trying to do? It's like, have you seen the show or seen the game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
This no, is but like I like Kevin Bacon.
Well, basically, it's like you can link anyone to Kevin Bacon within 6 jumps. This is like 6 degrees of gun control, or 6 degrees of being a prohibited person, where you can link someone and all of a sudden you are a prohibited person just because you had the audacity to go on a date with someone.
That's right. Well, all right. Like, remember the original Red Dawn movie? The old school one, the original, came out in '84. They made a very astute observation, right? When they brought in this, this crazy colonel in the Russian military to hunt down these kids and everything. And he said, well, if a wolf comes into your farm and kills your livestock, do you shoot the pig because he saw it? No, you find the hunter, you find the predator, you destroy the predator. It's not the fault of the livestock who saw it happen. It's not their fault. So very much in the same way that, okay, now does this mean cohabitation, or that these people, that you had to have lived with this person and by proxy, because you had access to firearms and they're a prohibited person, that now makes you a prohibited person because you allowed them access to firearms? And I guess the big question would be, in all the ambiguity of this, is how in the world would they ever know that? How would they know you were armed when you did cohabitate? How would they know if that person even had access to the firearms? And again, like, why is it even relevant? I mean, how would they even find this information out anyway?
Well, we have the whole Big Brother problem now, and we can get into that, but that's a whole nother can of worms that I'm very passionate about. Like, the government uses of stingrays, which tracks cell phone use. They just drive around and just pull everyone's cell phone out of the sky and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother argument there. I want to challenge someone to think about this. Let's say you are a victim of domestic violence and you're a woman and your boyfriend beats you and he wants to kill you. You want to get a gun for protection. But since you recently dated him, you're now a prohibited person. So therefore, the government is making you more of a target than you were before, because now you can't get a firearm. And your dating partner knows that. Or your former dating partner knows that.
Or what if you were in a very terrible situation in the past, and let's say that, you were in an abusive relationship and you escaped that relationship, right? And now you want to move on with your life and just become a normal person. And you know what? I'm not going to allow something scary like that for me to happen to me again. I'm not ever going to let a man beat me again. Like, if you're a woman and you've been beaten or something. So what? Because your dirtbag boyfriend was a felon, that you just happened to make a bad decision getting with this guy, you're somehow implicated just due to the fact that y'all lived together, and maybe you never even owned a gun while y'all were together. How would they know that?
Exactly. And I don't like the term recently, because that is so ambiguous. Think about it. What is recently to the universe than recently to an ant? There's a huge range. And so where does this fall? Does recently mean a week? Does recently mean a month? Does it mean a year? What is their definition? And they don't define it. And this is something that they do over and over again with gun laws, especially, well, all sorts of laws, but especially gun laws. So they make it ambiguous as possible so they can rely on stuff like Chevron to decide what it means at the time they want to decide it means something.
Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely a fact. It's pretty scary too when you look at like the Chinese social credit system. Right. And I've been telling people for years, I'm like, listen, y'all, that I'm telling you, it is coming to this freaking country, and they're trying to push it. And this is just one little notch in the belt of a social credit system, right? Where they can look into anyone's bank accounts. They want to be able to snoop and see what you're buying, right? We've already seen a little bit of saber rattling where they tried to strong arm Visa and some of the other, credit card processors to either stop doing business with people who engage in firearms traffic, or to report when people buy guns using their services. And remember Operation Choke Point, right? They were trying to get the banks to quit doing business with gun manufacturers and stuff. Now, look, all right, we're not going to get too far down this rabbit hole. However, it goes without saying that this social credit system. You look at how scary that is in China. You can be actually completely cut off from goods and services, and they can literally turn your life off if they want to. And that's what's scary about this. So how do you think you're going to find out who you dated, or what you bought or what you didn't buy, right? And of course, there's all this sort of soft registration, if you will, like with all this talks of changing like what constitutes an FFL. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't even have to look as far as China. You can look like to the north to Canada, when they cut off the truckers because they protested the COVID mandate, and they shut down their bank accounts and everything else. We are living in a scary time, and we are moving towards soft tyranny. And how do you get to tyranny? Happy tyranny, right? You make small little changes so people don't figure out that you're moving towards tyranny. It's like cooking a frog. You don't turn it up all the way because the frog would jump out. You turn it up a little by little by little until you cook the frog. And that's basically what they're doing here. The Republicans will say, well, we got them to take out all this bad stuff that was in the bill. We got them to take out 8 of the 9 things they want, or 7 of the 8 things they want. But when they come back next time, yeah, they took out 7 of the 8 things they want, but next time they're going to take out 6 of the 7 things they want, then 5 of the 6 things they want. And then eventually there's going to be nothing left to protect. And one of the things I use JM4 tactical holsters. It's not like a paid ad or anything, but I saw a press release that they put out today. I get press releases from everywhere, and they are Phoenix Ammo is another good example, where they called out the people in power and said, hey, it's time for us to get political. The companies on the left are political. It's time for us to get political. And I think people on the gun side, we kind of steer away from getting political, but sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And they were challenging other companies to do that. And I just wanted to pass on the challenge because it really, really, they made me a customer for life. I saw that. So I'm challenging other companies out there to do the same.
I saw the other day where Phoenix Ammunition had their Twitter page unpublished or pulled or whatever. And I don't know if it was just a soft ban, a 24-hour ban, but that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with, where, these big tech industries that, they flex the full muscle, right? I mean, I know like you and I have discussed, me being banned on Facebook, right? Like 820,000 followers on Facebook, and I'm still fighting it. And it's been over, a year and a half later after they banned me. And I'm still trying to, I haven't been given any recourse. Now, of course, we're not going to dive into that because this particular chat is mainly about, this gun legislation that's on our doorsteps right now. But it does go to show you that there's a heck of a lot of things going on, and we can't take for granted the delicate political situation that's unfolding in front of us, not only in the gun world, but in the First Amendment. The freedom of speech is a huge thing, right? So, one day the Romans woke up and it wasn't Rome anymore. And that's that incrementalism that you talk about, right? Incrementalism, is a deadly, deadly thing. And incrementalism will never give back what it took away, right? You will always have to use extreme measures to recover what incrementalism took away. And I believe that there are many people that are in that boiling frog situation. They're in the cauldron just sitting happy thinking, oh, this ain't so bad. And then they gradually turn up the heat. And before you know it, you got a van full of people on your front door for a reason you don't even know, because you're not even party to what you're being accused of, which goes completely against the foundation of what our country's built under, right? Red flag laws not only go against our constitutional rights in terms of the Second Amendment, but you're talking, that's Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment. I mean, there's tons of things that red flag laws, red frog laws,
That's
boiling
probably
frog
good.
laws.
Yeah, I like to call them red flag gun confiscation laws, and that's basically what it is. Yes, they do go against the Second Amendment, but more importantly, they are a violation of the due process clause of the Constitution. If you don't know what happens, a secret court rules against you, and then they kick your door down and they take all your guns, basically on hearsay. There is a lot of different things that this falls into, and if you don't think that the government will do that, I challenge you to look up civil forfeitures, where they charge money because, like, they pull you over and they find $25,000 in the car. So they charge the money with the U.S. government versus $25,000 in a car because an inanimate object doesn't have a right to due process. So therefore, it's guilty until proven innocence. So if you don't think the government's going to abuse red flag laws, look up civil forfeitures. So I just wanted to throw that out there just to show everyone that the government isn't exactly your friend. What did Reagan say? What's the scariest words? I'm gonna paraphrase them, but I'm here to help. I'm from the government, or something like that.
We're from the government, and we're here to help.
Yeah. Also, when do you need an AR-15? When the government tells you you don't need an AR-15.
That's a fact.
That is exactly what I'm trying to get across here. But we have had a lot of victories on the state level and the court level. And we might get another one. This video is probably not going to go up before it, but we might have another one as soon as tomorrow. We're recording this on a Wednesday, so we might have it as soon as tomorrow around 10 to 11 a.m.-ish.
The Supreme Court still has some things to discuss, don't they? I think that's probably
yes,
what we're
they do.
about.
And it's probably going to drop tomorrow if I was a betting man. And that's the New York State Pistol Rifle Association versus Bruin. And basically what that is saying that New York scheme, their may issue scheme, violates the Constitution and they have to become shall issue. And if that happens, that means the 9 remaining states, Hawaii, Maryland, California, New York, and the other states, Delaware, I can name them all, but I'll just leave it there, will have to become shall issue. And I think that's going to be a major victory. And I believe that we will get the victory with anything Supreme Court related. We can't be 100% sure. I have been 100% sure before and been wrong. So I never go more than 60 to 70% sure. And I'm there 60 to 70% that it's going to come out our way. In fact, if you read the tweets from the anti-gun side, the Everytowns, the Moms Demand Actions, Giffords, Brady, they are preparing for that as well.
You know, there's something else that I'd like to, maybe kind of get your feedback on in terms of a little bit of basic clarification as well. Is, when we look at all of these states battles, they're going to become so much more important because, so basically this bill that we're discussing in the context of this video, it provides funding for states for red flag gun confiscation orders for them to set that up to whatever they got to do, hire more people, whatever the case may be, right? I guess what they're doing, like with Roe v. Wade, for instance, where if they repeal Roe v. Wade, they're not saying you can't get an abortion. They're just saying that they're going to let bring that back to the states and let each state decide how they want to handle that. So could that be said with red flag laws that perhaps they're just saying, look, we're going to keep our hands out of it. We'll provide the funding, and if y'all want to pass laws in each state related to red flag laws, you have the ability, you have the funding, and we'll just leave that up to the states. It kind of has that vibe. Is that your take as well?
I think it's more than that because not only are they saying hands off, they're actively incentivizing these red flag laws. I know that they can use the funding for other things besides red flag laws, but the majority of that money is going to go to red flag laws. So if you want to have the biggest grants, which states do, state governments do, you're going to pass laws that are going to be in line with the things that you need to do to get that funding. So this is actively encouraging. So this isn't saying, hey, hands off like the Roe v. Wade thing. What this would be equivalent to saying, hey, we're going to give you money if you ban abortions. So it's the opposite way. We're going to give you money if you ban guns by using red flag laws to raid and take guns away from people that are not convicted of any crime and not dangerous enough to be taken off the streets.
Right. So I almost wonder if if some of the states will be like, all right, we'll take your money, and then maybe they'll just turn a blind eye to it and not really utilize it, or if perhaps maybe the feds will be like, hey, we're going to give you this money, but you need to show us some examples of where you're actually carrying these things out in order for us to continue giving the money. I also read somewhere within the context of that bill, it's 80 pages. If you guys have not read it, I will put a link in the description box below to the full text of the bill. You can read through it. But that they're saying that this whole clause for people under the age of 21 to have an expanded background check is going to sunset in 10 years. It actually has like a sunset clause. Is that your understanding as well?
It does. It's kind of like the sunset clause with the assault weapons ban, which was allowed to sunset, which still amuses me that it was, because usually when they put in laws, they don't allow them to sunset. They just keep on keeping on. And what the sunset clause is supposed to let them do is look to see if it's made any difference. But in all reality, they will just extend it. I have no doubt that they will just extend it when it sunsets. Just because when they take your rights away, it's very, very hard to get them back. You usually have to get them back through the court system. The government, when they take away a right, they usually don't give it back. There's very rare instances where that happens. There are instances where that happens, but it's very rare.
So when we look at these, the younger folks having to have these, expanded background checks and things like that, something that a lot of these politicians and anti-gunners have been pushing for forever are universal background checks. And I think that they're trying to sneak in some of this language in the FFL clause of this document to kind of say, hey, if but the way I read into it, if Grandpappy passes away and leaves you 200 guns, and you go down to the local gun show or gun shop or wherever, and you just sell them to get rid of them, you don't have to have an FFL to do that, even if you sell them to whoever you want to sell them to. The way I gather it is if it's a wordsmithing type of thing, but they change the language around slightly, but really the intention is incredibly similar to what it was before. You only need an FFL if you're, okay, for instance, let's say you, I don't know, have a $10,000 pot of money that you use for just investing and buying little things and selling things or whatever. Now, if we were talking, baseball cards or fishing gear or rare vintage music gear or something like that, that's perfectly harmless. That's called capitalism. But unfortunately, when it's guns, now say you were going around to pawn shops in your neighborhood, 5 times a week and procuring guns with the purposes of reselling them for a profit, and that was your main means of purveyance, then that's where they would want you to have an FFL. Do you see some danger in the rewording of the FFL clause that would, give them the ammunition they need to really go after people a lot harder and to expand the definitions by which someone would need to get an FFL?
Yeah, actually, I do. The old wording was like, if you're in the business of doing that. But if I'm searching gun broker or whatnot, or arms list, and I see something, I'm like, hey, that's way underpriced. I'm going to pick that up because I might want to sell that because it's half what it should be. You're not really in the business of selling guns. You just saw something that's way underpriced and you want to, buy it for an investment. Or if you buy firearms for an investment.
Who wouldn't buy that? I mean, who wouldn't buy a $20 bill for $10, right?
Yeah. Or if you buy guns for an investment. I have a friend who doesn't trust mutual funds or anything, so he invests in guns, and he's actually done pretty well on his return. But under the new bill, he's going to need an FFL because he's investing in guns. And this is going to affect a lot of people in the MilSerp community that buy like, oh, I got a great deal on this M1 Garand. I really don't need it, but I might be able to trade it for something down the road that's I want more. So that's why I picked it up. And that happens a lot in the MilSerp community. Well, those people now need an FFL to do that.
Right. If they're engaged in doing it like all the time for profit, though. I mean, if you're just buying guns to enhance a personal collection, and let's just say the intention of buying those guns is not to resell them, but just to have a collection. And then let's just say one day you go, you know what? I don't really want to collect guns anymore. I'm going to sell my collection. You're perfectly able to do that without an FFL. All right. I have something else interesting I wanted to run by you. Okay. Revocations. All right. FFL revocations are up like 500%. It's crazy. They're pulling FFLs for all the stupidest reasons in the world. Right. So under this, ambiguous wording, of course, we keep using that word, but it is totally legit in this particular case. But under the wording, it would seem that let's say that someone takes out an FFL in order to, dispose of some property, and then because these people, they don't run a gun store, they don't really do this for a living, but say they make a little minor paperwork flub, and then the ATF says, all right, we're smashing your FFL, you can't have it anymore. Then what? You got 500 guns you need to get rid of, and because they revoked your FFL, you can't sell them, right? Or you got to go sell them to another dealer. I mean, really what this is all doing at the end of the day is accomplishing the universal background checks that they've so desperately wanted all these years. They want as many paperwork trails as possible. And the danger in all this, John, is that the ATF is maintaining a registry. They can call it a database all they want, but at the end of the day, if I can go in and type in a name or type in whatever, and it gives me information, that's a database. They're not allowed to maintain a database, but they are. And why would they want more paperwork trails in more places, leading to more people and more situations and more transactions, if their intention was not to have some far-reaching database with more and more data that they could one day say, you know what, we're tired of this. We're collecting the guns, turn them in. We know what you got. Here's a letter, right? Just like they did with the bump stocks and binary and triggers and all the random crap. What's to stop them from sending you a letter and saying, here's the guns we know you have, cough them up or else?
Yeah, one of the things that always makes me laugh is the ATF said, oh, it's just a searchable database, and the search function on serial number is turned off. We can't search by serial number. They just say we can't search by serial number. So when we finally got to look at the software, all you needed to do was go down to what I think it was. Don't quote me on this, but you have the file tools, whatever. You went like tools, fields, search, bam, and within 15 seconds, you turned back on that search function, and they're like, "Well, we have it turned off."
I know. I mean, the question is, where are the checks and balances? Who's accountable, right? I mean, like, someone has to be accountable. They're not supposed to do this. They're doing it anyway. They don't care that we know they're doing it. So who's accountable? What's our recourse? What's our action? What can we do to stop this from occurring?
The only thing that we can really do on a lot of cases, and I know people don't want to hear this, is sue. And GOA, which I work with, and you also work with, they have sued a lot. My personal friend Rob Olson and Steven Stambolier, both attorneys for GOA. I call Rob the chicken farmer because he brings me eggs every once in a while. He lives close to me, and he literally has chickens. Show up on my house with eggs. So they're doing a great job, and we should have some word on the bump stock case if the Supreme Court grants writ of cert to the case. We should know something fairly soon. I know the conference for it is tomorrow, where the justices are going to look at it and decide whether they're going to hear the case or not, but we should know something soon. Yeah,
I mean, there's just so much going on, and I hope that, people can wake up and really understand that the wool's being pulled over their eyes, that all of these things are occurring, and we have to be vigilant. And it's really scary, and that's why I decided to get more engaged with GOA. And I've always been a 2A advocate my whole life, and I've tried to do everything I can to assist GOA. And the folks at FPC are wonderful. I love working with them, and they're just, there's so many great people in this community that are trying to make a major difference. And I really appreciate you, taking the time to, hang out and have a chat with me. And we're definitely not like leaving yet or anything, but, it's just cool to see like-minded people, get together and share ideas. And this is really what it's all about, picking each other's brains and kind of seeing where people are at. And, there's been this just huge change in culture in the Second Amendment, right? So many more people from many, many more different backgrounds from all walks of life are choosing to arm themselves, choosing to be free, choosing to make that choice, right, to protect themselves. And it's a humbling thing for me to see where, 10, 15 years ago, this was a very different community. Not that that's a bad thing or anything, but it's just really cool to see, more people coming together to understand that these attacks are coming from within. Sometimes the government's not exactly a friend. And, to see these 14 Republican senators breaking rank, 8 of which have, glowing ratings from the NRA, that's a pretty concerning thing to see at our doorstep, and not exactly the result I expected at all.
I mean, it is. And if you looked at the Republican Party of Texas convention with Cornyn speaking when he got booed, he doesn't seem to care what they think. He's not up for re-election until 2026. So what he's counting on is people forgetting. And we cannot forget, not just the Second Amendment community, but Americans as a whole have a short memory span. And we have to keep on reminding people what these guys did. We have to hold them accountable. We can't let them get away with it, or they're going to get away with it again. Say what you want, but the left, they have long memories. And they will make their people pay.
It's like they say, never let a tragedy go to waste. You know what I mean? Like, they always want to talk about, trying to really, a big thing is cashing in on that emotion. And that's always been a big thing with them. When there's an emotional response, they go, oh, there's our chance. All right, we can sneak something under the door. We can sweep it under the rug, and people will eat it and ask for seconds. And that's the danger. When we have people who run essentially on a platform of, hey, I'm pro-gun, right? And you look at some of the statements that Cornyn made in the past on his Twitter page. You look back, right. People may forget, but Twitter doesn't. You can look back through all of the tweets and see some of the statements he's made in the past where he's made very pro-gun statements. And you think, okay, well, if this person is saying he's pro-gun, then obviously he must be pro-gun. Clearly not. Maybe they view this compromise, if you will, as a victory, but I don't, because I can still die from 1,000 paper cuts. Doesn't mean I want to get 1 or 2 every day and just go, well, maybe this won't be the one that kills me.
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh said, death by 1,000 paper cuts, and he was right. I disagree with him on every other thing in the world, but that statement is 100% true, that you can die a death by 1,000 paper cuts. But it's our turn to make those paper cuts. And I think we have been doing a lot of that at the state level with constitutional carry now in 25 states. We have been winning in the courts. So we've been winning in the courts and on most state levels, not every state. Sorry, New York. Sorry, Maryland. But in most states, we have been winning. And that scares them. And that's why they are concentrating so much on the national level. It's because that's where they think they have a chance to win. So we just have to keep on pushing back and not forget and hold these Republicans' feet to a fire. Just because they're Republicans does not mean they are for our side, the side of liberty, the side of freedom, the pro-gun side. Just because they're Republicans does not mean that. There are a lot of anti-gun Republicans. Look at the whole freaking state of Florida, which is to the south of you. Ask those guys about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill. They'll tell you that was written by Republicans. So just because they're Republicans does not mean that they are, I want to say Second Amendment supporters, but Second Amendment doesn't grant us our gun rights. It just puts limitations on the government. I call the Second Amendment and the whole Bill of Rights a document of negative liberties because it doesn't grant you liberties. It recognizes that we have these rights already inherently from God or the universe or whatever you want to say. But we have these rights. It's not for the government to take from us or to give us. It is our inherent rights, our inalienable rights. It just puts handcuffs on the government saying, hey, we are the government. We acknowledge that people have these rights and we will not infringe upon those. In fact, if you read the Federalist Papers, Anti-Federalist Papers, some writings from Jefferson, a lot of the founding fathers debated whether a Second Amendment was even necessary because not because they wanted to take guns away, but they were like, who's going to be stupid enough to say that you don't have the right to bear arms? And I think we are finding out.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Shannon Watts.
If you could put them in a time machine and they could show up right now, they would probably start smacking people and backhanding people or worse. All right.
I think they would do worse.
Last thing, before we go for the day, I want to ask one last thing. So when we look at the importance of these states battles that are occurring, right? So we see that, let's just say for the standpoint of red flag laws, sure, the feds are incentivizing states to adopt red flag laws. The buck doesn't stop there, no pun intended. But let's just say that with these states battles being so important and some of the positive ground that's being gained by many of us on the state level, do we see maybe in the future, John, that perhaps people will begin to just not even recognize the federal government anymore? So, right. I mean, our Constitution, I mean, it says like power is not delegated to the federal, to the state, or then delegated to the people. So at what point do we say, you know what, this ain't working out? We don't even recognize your authority anymore. I mean, really, that's what this all comes down to, right? If the states can make up our mind and then we, this becomes a states' rights issue like Roe v. Wade and abortion and things like that, well, then why can't the issues that surround my life and what's important to me be my problem and my problem only and have nothing to do with the state at all?
I 100% agree with you. The only problem with that is for that to happen, people have to be willing to take a stand. People have to draw their line in the sand. And if you don't do that, we'll never get to the point where that is a possibility. So that is up to the populace. That is up to the people to decide. When enough people are pushed far enough, that will happen. It's a big circle, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen that where it goes from freedom to apathy and it goes all the way back around. It's a big circle. So where are we at on that circle?
Yeah.
Not really sure.
Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. The circle continues.
Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, not really sure where we are on that, but every day I wake up, I see stuff that's encouraging and I see stuff that's not encouraging. So it's hard to say. I'm plugged into the news because I have to be more than most people. So I see all sorts of things, which is good, but it's also confusing at times.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be a drudgery. I mean, imagine having, let's just say a crystal ball where you can see a little bit more than the average person. Sometimes it might make you even question your own humanity to think, wow, do I want to know this? Do I want to really know what people have in store for me and what their real intentions are? I mean, and that's a scary place to be in. And the world has progressively become a much scarier place. And there's never been a better reason for people to be armed and to be protected and have the ability to stand up to tyranny, to stand up to evil in their community, to stand up to these evil school shooters, whoever it may be. Whenever you see evil in your path, to have a means to eradicate it. I think it's one of the most American traits that we could ever ask for in our society is simply the ability to stamp out evil wherever you see it.
Yeah, my two friends, DLD After Dark and Flying Rich, both of them.
I really enjoyed being on with him the other day, by the way.
Oh, DLD After Dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I grew up with his brother. I've known his brother since like kindergarten.
Awesome.
But they both say different versions of this. You know, the only thing that stops evil is good men skilled in violence.
Yeah,
it's kind of true.
I mean, at the end of the day, we can hate evil all we want, but sometimes you have to pick up a dang stick and beat it back in the dark. You know what I mean? That's just how it goes. I mean, someone has to pick up a torch and a sword and go fight. You know, and it is a story as old as humanity, right? There's nothing that's going to escape the fact that sometimes good people have to put evil people down.
That is 100% true.
Yeah, man. Dude, I really appreciate you hanging out here with me. This has been such a wonderful talk, and I hope that we can get together and discuss more things, hopefully in a little bit better terms, rather than, you know, we've lost one little tiny battle, but that doesn't mean that the war's over, right?
No, there's going to be a lot of battles. There's going to be a lot of victories, and there's going to be a lot of defeats. And the winner is not the ones that can have the most victories. The winners are going to be the ones that can endure and to keep on moving forward and to keep on fighting.
That's right. John, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And look, there are moral victories as well. All right. There's, you know, you can lose many battles and still win the war. And I believe that the moral victory is in our favor, and we will always be morally on top of this situation. And I strongly believe that. And John, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm going to let everybody go. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. Let me know if you like this format. We're definitely going to do more. I've got some awesome guests I'm going to have here on the channel in this type of a format. Sometimes we all can't be in the same room together, but this gives us the ability to have a good chat from time to time. And John, anything else you want to leave us with before we head out?
No, just I want everyone to remember that you can choose dangerous freedom or safe servitude. And I myself is always going to choose dangerous freedom.
Right on. Dude, words to live by. That's John Crump, everybody. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Many more videos on the way. If you want to support the channel, go over to Ballistic Ink and pick yourself up a snazzy new t-shirt. That's one way you can support our efforts. It's been a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Many more on the way. We'll see you soon.